Hello YouTube and welcome back! Anyways, it's been about a month since the Nintendo Direct first officially revealed Fire Emblem Engage, so I kind of just want to look back at all the stuff that we know from the reveal trailer, the leaks, as well as all the Twitter, if you did not know, the Japanese Fire Emblem Twitter has actually been posting information a couple times a week since the game's announcement. I want to go over all that. Although I will say, this is being the day this is being recorded, the Twitter's only revealed up to Celine's bio. Anything after that will not be mentioned by me in the video, unless it's super important and I decide to add it and like it afterwards. It'll probably be put in a comment or a description or something like that if it really needs to be mentioned. Anyways, I just want to talk about various elements, give my opinions. Kind of want to also react a little bit to the opinions that have been echoed throughout the community. This game, I mean, I'm still pretty new to the Fire Emblem community when you really get into the nitty-gritty of it. I wasn't in the community when the first Three Houses trailer dropped. I joined the community that December. I first started playing Heroes and first picked up Awakening on an impulse buy in December 2018. I bought Awakening pretty impulsively after playing the demo a couple times the same day I was first introduced to Heroes. Since then, I've been a pretty big fan. I've played all 16 games, most of them, besides the first two, multiple times as well. I was in the community when the February 2019 Direct trailer came out. I was pretty hyped. My first new game in Fire Emblem. And I still remember the reactions of the E3 2019 trailer of, oh my goodness, this game actually looks good. But Engage does seem pretty divisive so far. Based on the digging I've done and what I remember from that time and what other people have said, it sounds like the negativity and divisiveness isn't really that different from Three Houses. So if you're really pumped for Engage and you're kind of bummed about how negative a lot of discourse seems to be, don't worry about it. Three Houses sold amazingly. A bunch of people love it, even if a lot of the diehards don't necessarily care for it, especially on a gameplay level. There are still plenty of people that absolutely love the game. Like, you can definitely see that in Fire Emblem Heroes. Like, there was a lot of Three Houses stuff for a while. And Engage will get that too. Anyways, first thing, I actually have a little bit of a list of what I want to talk about. Anyways, the first big thing is, the big elephant in the room, the character design. A lot of people have called it extremely anime, too anime. And to that I say, it's definitely a valid complaint, I feel. Fire Emblem's always been very anime. Like, I've never watched anime in my life. I should say that right now. From a visual standpoint, it's always been very anime. Like, if you look at Fire Emblem 4, and like if you look at like a lot of, especially the Nintendo anime from the 90s, like the Fire Emblem anime, the Zelda one, and I'm certain a bunch of other animes, if you looked at pictures from there and looked at the portraits from Fire Emblem 4, you can see Fire Emblem 4 is very anime as well, with its character design. And I don't feel like a lot of people bring that up. Most people don't bring up character design in Fire Emblem 4 for the most part. People tend to prefer the Thracia character design. It just seems different. It's definitely like a showcase of how art changes over time. It's also worth noting that pretty much every continent in Fire Emblem has a different art style, which is something I can really appreciate, is it really differentiates different continents. Like, Tellius looks very different from Fodlan. But within the continents, they're very consistent. That's something I really like. The DS games have a very distinct art style. While a lot of people don't like that art style, it is still very distinct and looks completely different from any other continent. Hidari's art in Shadows of Valentia is incredible. But I'd prefer it if Hidari didn't do another Fire Emblem game so that we can have different artists take on Fire Emblem, and that'll also make Shadows of Valentia as well as the continent of Valentia more unique. Like, if we ever get another game set on Valentia, I'd love Hidari to return. But unless we do that, I would prefer other artists to get a chance to really shine. So if you don't like Engage's art, I think it's understandable. And just know that most likely the next game is going to get rid of it. That being said, I think people are really overreacting about that. I think people are like acting like it's the end of the world. That, oh my goodness, it's so anime-like, it's so colorful. This is awful. It's awful. It's the worst thing ever. And it's like, okay, you don't have to like it, but going to extreme lengths of saying this is the worst thing I've ever seen. No, it isn't. I can guarantee it's not the worst thing you've ever seen. There's so much in this world, in this world that looks awful, and you're looking at Alear or Celine's dress or any of them, you're like, that is literally the worst things my eyes have ever looked upon. I think it's worth noting that I don't necessarily, well, the character designs themselves I like. I don't like the style of the art for the characters in Awakening of Fates that much. I've never really been able to place a finger on what it is, like it's whether the eyes, nose, ears, or what. Did that stop me from playing them? No, and I don't know. It's just one of those things where I don't think it's that big a deal. Plus, I think it's one of those things that's just, it's different, so it stands out a lot, but eventually, once you get used to it, you'll accept it more. And also, I'm just glad that in general, at least from an outfit and hair perspective, as well as a color perspective, I'm glad that this game looks really different, as it makes it kind of stand out, so that you don't have, like, so many characters that all look the same. I'm glad that they're trying to avoid that by doing a completely different art style here. I think that's really cool. When it comes to actual opinions on the art, not really my style. Again, I've never watched anime, so while it's a very anime art style, it's not my thing. But it is growing on me. I love the color. I love the colors. It's so bright and vibrant. Much like the DS games. The DS games were very bright and vibrant, and I'm glad they're going back to that. I think the outfits in general, I know some people aren't a fan of, like, over-detailing and all that. I like them. Celine's dress is a little, definitely over the top. But, I mean, this game is very clearly inspired off of French culture and a lot of elements of French culture. And if you look at, like, old, early history French dresses, it's kind of reminiscent. It's, like, not identical or anything. But I do see influence in it. So, I don't know. I think the outfits are good. Hair, for the most part, I also think is good. My issue with the design really lies within the faces, is I feel like a lot of the faces look very, very similar to each other, particularly in the leaked support screen, where all the characters, like, had the same looking face. The hair and outfits all really looks unique on these characters, but the faces, they most of them look very, very similar. I don't know. I don't think that's too big of an issue. Like, Three Houses a lot. I feel like there's some same face issues in Three Houses as well, and I like how Three Houses look. I like the character designs. I think the character designs are fun. They pop. I think they're good to look at. And I think the Engage ones, well, they're not necessarily for me. I would not call them I don't think they're objectively bad. They're not for everyone. Not even really fully for me, but I still think they look nice. But Alear, okay. Alear, before I talk about Alear, I'm just gonna say, it wasn't until I was most of the way done on Xenoblade 2 that I realized that people online consider the main cast of Xenoblade 2 that have some of the worst character designs of all time, particularly Rex, Pyra, and Mithra. I did not know about that until I was nearly done with the game. I can definitely see why not everyone liked Rex's design, or any of their designs, but I don't think they're bad designs. Sure, there's things I would change in all their designs, well, in Pyra Mithra's design, but I think Rex's design in particular is really strong, as I really think it shows what the guy's about. This isn't a Xenoblade video, so I'm not going to go deep into that. So, now that you know that I like Xenoblade 2's character designs, Alear is still my favorite character design from Engage. Not only that, I think Alear's design is really fun and good to look at. Now, is it like the best character design that's ever existed in ever? No. No, it isn't. In fact, no. Definitely not. But it really pops. It looks different. It doesn't have... I don't think it has the same face issues, mostly because of the multicolored eyes. And while there are things that I changed, like I think having one eye color would probably look better. And people online have like changed the hair, the dual hair to like ombre, as well as just make it one hair color. I think those look fantastic. And female Lear having her hair up in like a braid or a ponytail, I also think would look better, but I like the design. It's fun. It's funky. I would say it's different, but Perry pretty much did it first. Fates did it first. New hashtag there. But no, I actually like it. I mentioned this in my leaks video, that when I first saw it, I hated it, but by the time I made that video, it had grown on me, and yeah, it's still grown on me. Especially male Lear. I actually really like male Lear's design. That one I actually would go as far as to say I think it is actually a good design. Female Lear's I think is a little bit more of an acquired taste, but I don't think it's bad design. I actually like it. Is it my favorite Lord design in the franchise? No. I still like Ike more. I like the Three Houses Lord design more. All three of the main house leaders. I like their designs more. I like the Yggdrasil Lord's designs a lot. But it definitely stands out. Like, if you ever look at all the main characters, lords, and other important characters, the Lears would stand out. The Lears would stand out. Pretty much a lot of the modern ones would stand out. And that's something I'm glad they're doing. The Three Houses protagonists would stand out. Lear would stand out. Korn would stand out. Azure, I think, would stand out. At least Robin would stand out. Lucina probably would. Chrom? He wouldn't. He wouldn't. You could just put Marth there instead, and people would be like, oh, it's Chrom. But I'm glad Lear's different. People, again, are reacting extremely negatively. Well, some people are reacting extremely negatively. Some are reacting extremely positively. Lear is very divisive, but I like the design. Next up on my list is story. This one's a little bit more of a rant. I don't have an opinion on the story. I am sick of people saying on the internet, oh, the story sucks. My guy, we know nothing about the story. We've had a 3-minute trailer, bios, in the game description. That is the story that we know. We know nothing of the story. Forgetting emblems for a second and their existence, people are being like, oh, it's just another evil dragon, blah, blah. So? A complex story isn't always a good one. Just because the story is complex doesn't make it good. And just because the story is simple or derivative, does that make it bad? I'd argue Fire Emblem as a whole is a franchise that struggles with storytelling. It has very, very rarely does it tell a good story. Just at all. Very rarely do you have a well-executed story and just a story that's good in general. Binding Blade has probably the simplest story in the franchise. Humans versus dragons. One bad guy wants to eradicate humanity. The world rises up against him. Very simple story, but you know what? I think it's one of the better stories. Not because it's like amazing or anything, but it's told well. It's a simple story told well. It's not a bad story. It's cohesive. You like the characters for the most part. Merlinus can be a little bit annoying. Annoying's a little simplistic, but that doesn't make him bad. It's a very clearly supposed to be a simple good versus evil story. Path of Radiance. Path of Radiance is an example of a very simple story that has a lot of complex nuances that help make it a really good story. Because the base story is just a riff off of Homeland invaded. Young man helps royalty. They leave their homeland to seek help. They get help. They liberate the homeland. Then they take down the empire. With the only exception being the liberating and taking down the empire are switched in Path of Radiance. If you strip away the nuances, that is the story. but it's told very well with lovable characters, great pacing. It's a very simple story, told extremely well with some great nuances. The nuances vary on execution. They try to tackle some pretty complex themes in Tellius to varying levels of success, and there's definitely sprinkling like, oh, you'll just find out about this in the sequel. But Path of the Radiant's on his own. If you take away all the connections to Radiant Dawn, for the most part, is a pretty simple story with some deeper nuances. But it's told well. It is one of the best stories in the franchise. So I don't see why, just because Engage's story is just like, oh, there's a fell dragon, you're a divine dragon that's been asleep for 1,000 years, you're waking up, the divine dragon's coming back, a little bit of kingdom skirmishes, as we really learned with Celine's bio. I don't see why that has to be bad. And then we get into the Engages of like, oh, they're relying on past characters for nostalgia, and again, while that does make me cautiously optimistic, like, they can easily go too far into fan service and mess up the story and prevent it from being good, that doesn't make it bad. Like, you're looking at Heroes, a free-to-play mobile game that gives you weekly updates, and that story is, and probably for a long time will never be complete. Like, they add it weekly. It's a serialized story. You keep building weekly. Yeah, of course, that story is going to be overly fan servicey and not good. That's the point of the game. And yes, the original Warriors didn't have a good story either, but that's because it's the first Warriors game. What did you expect? But this is a mainline Fire Emblem game, not a spin-off, not a free-to-play mobile game. It is a $60 to buy, complete story Fire Emblem game. I think the clearest example to look at is Xenoblade 3. I know a lot of people were really worried that it's going to be way too fan servicey since it's a combination of the worlds of Xenoblade 1 and 2. So people are really worried that the fan service is going to be really like heavy hard, and there was almost no fan service to the first two games. Very minor stuff. Now obviously that's Xenoblade 3, not Engage, but I think I'm pretty confident in saying that the emblems are not going to be handled in a way that is going to come off as too fan servicey. And I really just think it's too early, though, to draw conclusions about the story. I'm cautiously optimistic. It's a simple story, but if it's told really well, I will really like it. And emblems, they can add a nuance to make the story more complex, or they can also ruin it, but that's not something we can tell. It really isn't. Like, the first Xenoblade game has an extremely simple story for the first 75%, I'd say. It's extremely well told. People love the game story. I love the game story. But it really isn't until the third act of the game where they really start adding more layers to the story that make it complex. Most of the game, I'd argue, is pretty simple. Oh, let's go get revenge. And while their objectives change a couple of times throughout the early game, it's mostly a let's get revenge for what these suckers did. Simple idea, simple concept, really well told with some great characters. And Fire Emblem is known for having great characters. Even the ones with, I'd argue, not good character designs, sometimes are great characters. Anyways, though, that's all my thoughts on all that. Though those are all the things that people tend to be negative about. Gameplay. And maps. They're revealing a lot of maps with the Twitter things. Like, as of the recording of this, the most recent batch revealed Fog of War is returning. I'm one of the few people that doesn't mind Fog of War. I'm actually excited by this. You know what would really get me excited about Fog of War returning? If the enemies were affected too. If the enemies were affected too, that's it. That's beautiful. Probably not, though. Oh well. I still think it just changes the it changes the tempo of gameplay, which is nice. And it's not like the Monastery 3 Houses where it changes the tempo and like slows it down so much. It just makes a map different. You have to approach it differently without truly slowing things down. I'm also confident, based on what we saw in the trailer, that the open world is going to be a lot smaller than... Oh, sorry. The explorable hub world is going to be way smaller than the Monastery. I feel confident in saying that. My hope is, though, either way, that they just make a menu version of it. I think people wouldn't mind the Monastery as much is if there's an option where you can just turn the Monastery into a menu and do all the Monastery stuff on just a menu. For people that want to play fast, so you didn't have to like walk around and warp and all that. I think people would like the Monastery a lot more if they did that. I know I would. That'd make the game way more replayable for me. And the map design itself, though, obviously their maps look super small so far, but that is compensated by units having low movement. I think it is personally easier to design smaller maps. So I wonder if the team who was ever behind this was like, people didn't like Three Houses' big open maps, but they just struggled maybe making giant but complex maps. They're like, what if we make smaller maps that are more complex, but we also lower move? I think that's a fine idea. While the game has low move, the maps are small. As long as you don't have like genealogy-sized maps with 6 smooth paladins, that's okay. That's fine. I don't think that's a big deal. I know some people early on were reacting. It doesn't seem like to be something that people are reacting to now, and I think that's fine. I frankly think the maps we've seen so far look fantastic. Villagers are back. That's great. Thank goodness. We see what looks to be an offense map. Hot dog. Fog of War, as I mentioned. Just a lot of different terrain in general, a lot of these maps. As we've seen a couple of town maps where there's like bridges and there's water. You can't go over, most of the units can't go over water. That's great. Forts are back. Oh, yes. We're back to proper map design. Because Three Houses really took a lesson from Gaiden. Sorry, I kicked the table. Don't know if you heard that. But like, Three Houses really took a guide from Gaiden with map design, which, I mean, I really shouldn't be the one to speak. I love Genealogy's gameplay more than its story. But even then, those maps I feel like had a lot more to do in them than Three Houses did, so just one of those things. But I'm really pumped with the maps we've seen so far. We've seen 7, maybe 8. We've seen a lot of pairs of maps where they're kind of similar, like pairs of them. Like we have 2 like that river town map. We got 2 of what appears to be the same castle area, which is really cool. And we're also able to kind of start piecing together the order of gameplay. Like the forest map, it's safe to assume that's the first map. You got 2 playable units, Vander and Alir, and Cram and Fram are green units. The next one, I guess you return to the temple. Looks like it got attacked because you got 4 playable units in that. That's from the Vander Twitter quote. And then it looks like Alfred, Celine, and their retainers will join you. And it looks like their kingdom's being attacked, so you help them. That'll bring like the village map. So you got the 2 Rivertown ones, the one that we saw a lot in the trailer, then the one from Alfred's. It was yes, I needed to think. Alfred's Twitter video. And then it looks like that's probably where we're going to get the Fog of War one. We actually saw it in the trailer with Chloe's critical. We didn't see the map itself, but we saw the battle background. It's safe to assume that's the same map that we saw in the Celine Twitter quote. Twitter crit video. That's what I meant to say. And then it looks like we got some castle stuff. Maybe snow before that. The snow map before that. I don't know. Well, we're starting to be able to piece together some of the things. Weapon triangle's back. That is such a relief. The break mechanic, we really don't know how it works yet, which is really cool. We've deduced that you that one of the requirements is weapon triangle advantage, but that's not the only requirement. Is in the Alear, some of the Alear Twitter videos, like in like the Vander one, we see like if you're able to break an enemy, there's like a wow, I can't angle it properly, but like the red circle with cross going through it if you can break an enemy. We have yet to see that when the player's controlling Alear. So maybe it's also class-based. It looks like you have to be an offense to break the opponent, and you have to be weapon triangle advantage, but there's clearly more to it than that. That's cool. It seems like that's going to prevent juggernauting. I will say, as someone who tends to play Fire Emblem enemy phase heavily, that is going to throw a wrench in my life, but I am open to it. I'm open to it. It looks really fun. Oh, and then there's no weapon durability. This is something I'm a little bit more mixed on. I like how Gaiden and Shadows of Valentia handled no weapon durability. Wasn't really a fan of how Fates did it. But I've been viewing on the community, and a lot of people are like, I don't like how there's no weapon durability, because that takes away a whole lot of the item management thing, but does it really, for the most part? Like in 3, like I saw someone today saying, oh yeah, 3 Houses durability system was perfect, and that got me thinking, no, it isn't. It's annoying early game, because iron weapons while they have a lot of durability, like, it's just a pain to change out iron weapons. But by the end of the game, once you're using silver weapons, you have so much money that it's made an even bigger chore. So it's like, I don't know. I'm mixed on the no weapon durability. Hopefully there's no weapon durability on weak weapons. I'd love it if like the super powerful weapons still had weapon durability, as I think that's really the best way to do it. Is it gets rid of the tedium in the early game of like, oh wow, time to get more iron weapons because they're gone. Oh, because iron weapons are cheap, they're easy to get, so that really it's not very strategic. It's just more annoying. Besides something like Thracia, where enemies don't drop stuff, like that's a game where I think durability helps, but I don't know. As long as they don't do like debuff thing, like you were using silver weapons debuffs you like in Fates, I think no weapon durability is there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's fine. And like obviously I talked about the character designs, but I really essentially the final things, like I think I hit everything in gameplay that I want to. The game's presentation so far seems great. Say what you will about the character designs, but the maps themselves look vibrant and colorful compared to the kind of dull and drab 3 Houses maps. That's a relief. And they look fun. The presentation seems really good. The animations, especially on the criticals, look spectacular. Unique weapon icons. Oh yeah, looks so good. The UI is the thing with 3 Houses UI is it had a lot of personality. Like 3 Houses, you had that circle battle pred guy. That has a lot of personality. But you know what? That doesn't make it good. It sucked to use. I hate the circle design. It breeds so much personality, but it's just a pain to use. It's not the most functioning thing. But Engages, it looks very simplistic. It's pretty. Like it looks clean. It looks pretty, but it's very simple. But it just looks so functional. The functionality looks great on it, though. Like it looks. I like the UI. It's simple, but it seems like it's just so clean. And the music. We haven't heard a lot of the music yet. I don't know what it's called, but there's a map theme and battle theme that we've heard in a majority of the Twitter videos, and I love it already. It sounds very... I don't know my music history well, so if I'm wrong, correct me, but it sounds the Turn of Millennium French inspired, like 11th century French music. I may be a couple hundred years off, but definitely sounds like that to me. I love that. It's already so catchy. Great map theme. Love it. and just the game just visually looks incredible. Like three houses. I love Fire Emblem. I enjoy Three Houses quite a bit. I've played so much Three Houses, but Three Houses. If your AAA big franchise game looks worse than Three Houses, there's a problem. Three Houses is not a very good looking game outside portraits. The portraits look great, but like the monastery, the textures, not a fan. And the colors for the most part are so drab and lifeless. And Engage does not engage with that style. No, it doesn't. It looks so colorful and fun, and you know, this video is way too long. Like, way too long. Like, yeah. Only 30 minutes long, but long. And you know what? I'm super pumped for Engage. I could be more excited, but I could be less excited. I'm extremely excited. We're, what, 3 months away now? Hopefully we'll get a trailer in November. I know that Xenoblade 3 and Three Hopes both got an early April trailer, so 2 months after their direct reveal. So hopefully early November we'll get another trailer, then hopefully we'll get a demo or a direct in December, January. Like, oh my goodness. Either of those or both of those would be incredible. I'd love to have a demo where I could play the first couple of chapters, like get introduced to the story. Here's some of what's going to be amazing music. Get familiar with the characters. Get familiar with the new gameplay systems, the old gameplay systems, and oh my goodness, guess what? We can't end this video yet because I forgot to talk about the most important element of this game. Even though it's literally on my to talk about list, the emblems. Oh my goodness. Oh, it looks like such a fun mechanic. Do I think those are the only 12 we're getting? Yes. Is that a little upsetting to me? Yes. Because Self isn't one of them, and Self is my favorite Fire Emblem character, but that's besides the point. I don't think there's gonna, I don't know. I think for sure those 12 are gonna be obtained through story. I don't think there's gonna be any gacha involved with those 12. If there's any gacha, it'd be for optional emblems that aren't a part of the main 12, like the Three Houses, house leaders, opposite gender avatars for Corn and Byleth, Zelith, Shida, Ephraim, the other lords in Blazing Blade, Lelina, characters like those. I don't think it's gonna happen, mostly because the Twitter video shows that it seems that everyone can, like, the fusion thing with everyone, like, we seem to see different things, like Alfred and Luis both fused with Sigurd. So clearly Alfred isn't the only one who could do that, because I know some people are theorizing, oh yeah, there'll be a bunch of different ones, but every character will have like a specific character that they engage with the most. Clearly not. A lot that we don't know about that feature yet. Like, it looks like it has like a limited turn amount of like 4, 3, and then it like goes down. There's like Marth and Alir have a skill that makes that longer, I believe. It seems like a really fun feature. It seems like this game's version of battalions and pair up. And when it comes to battalions and them not being in this game, I'm not too hurt over it. Battalions are a great feature, but I don't think they need to be in every Fire Emblem game, because I don't think they make sense in every Fire Emblem game. Because not every Fire Emblem game is giant battlefields. Like, Fire Emblem 4 Remake, hell yes, battalions should definitely return. It's like you're trudging over entire continents. But something like Thracia, you start out as a tiny little band, and you never really grow that big of a militia. So I don't think having gambits really makes sense there. So them not being in this game, nah. Not too heard about that. I hope rescuing is like a big thing. That'd be nice. I miss rescuing. Miss rescue dropping, but I doubt it will be. That's okay. I'll always have games with them, isn't it? Yeah, now that I actually covered emblems, no Velocity, they look exciting. This was kind of fun to record. I just wanted to ramble about my thoughts about this game, I guess. I'm pumped. Hopefully we get more information besides the Twitter post soon. And I will see you next time. Thank you.